Ready to dig deep. Today we're taking a deep dive into the world of drillers. And joining me to help break down the insights from RoleCatcher's Career Guide, my expert co-host. What do you say we unearth some knowledge?
Sounds like a plan. Let's drill into it. You know, when I first saw a driller, I'll be honest, I pictured like oil rigs. But this guide, eye-opening, way more to it.
Okay, so paint the picture for us beyond the oil rig. What else are we talking about here?
Mining, for one. Those precious metals. Deep underground, gotta get them somehow. Then there's construction, huge projects, foundations, all that. They even get into shot firing.
Shot firing. Now that one sounds a little more intense than I imagined.
Right, it's basically controlled explosions to excavate, like clearing a space for a highway or a building. Drillers make that happen.
Huh. I admit, never made that connection before. We rely on these folks for a lot more than I realized.
Easy to overlook, right? Roads, bridges, all that infrastructure. Drillers are behind the scenes, literally sometimes.
Good point. So, say someone's listening thinking, this sounds kind of cool. What's a typical day even like in this line of work?
Buckle up, because we're not talking office life here. The guide gets into it, remote locations, all kinds of weather, working way up high or underground in tunnels.
Definitely not for everyone, that's for sure. I can see why it takes a certain type to handle all that, day in and day out.
And physically demanding. Noise, dust, vibration from the equipment. But here's the twist. It's not just brute strength. There's some seriously high-tech stuff involved, too.
Yeah, they mentioned directional drilling, automation. What's the deal with that?
Okay, so imagine, instead of straight down, you can steer the drill bit. Sideways, angles, like a tiny, powerful robot underground.
Whoa, that's got to take precision. Why is that so important, though?
Think about it laying pipes, cables under a city. You can't just dig everything up. Directional drilling makes that possible, less disruption. And the automation, well, just like other fields, tech's changing the game.
So we've got brawn and brains more than people might assume.
Exactly. Dynamic field, always evolving.
So we've established not your average 9 to 5, right?
Yeah.
Physically demanding, technically involved. What's the payoff for all that?
Well, the guide's pretty upfront, lays out the pros and cons, and honestly, the earning potential, that's a big one. You can make a really good living as a driller, especially, the more experience you get.
Makes sense. Hazardous conditions, specialized skills, people are going to pay for that.
Right, but those high salaries often come with trade-offs. Long hours, time away from home. We're talking extended shifts, weekends, even being sent out to some remote location for weeks, months at a time.
So got to weigh those lifestyle factors against that paycheck.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's something I thought RoleCatcher did. Well, they map out the career progression. Like, okay, you start as a driller's assistant all the way up to senior driller. Gives you a roadmap.
Love a good roadmap. So walk us through that. What can someone expect climbing that ladder?
All right, so driller's assistant. You're learning the ropes, equipment, pretty hands-on, but even at the junior driller level, this is what got me, you're already supervising. Making decisions that affect the project.
No kidding. Didn't expect that level of responsibility so early on.
Right. And then senior driller, it's less about you operating the machinery, more about strategy. The guide used the phrase directing drilling operations. You're analyzing data, geology stuff, assessing risks, developing the whole plan of attack.
So it really does go from like brawn to brains. You're the mastermind behind these complex projects.
Pretty much. And speaking of brains, there's this whole section on knowledge and learning. It's a big deal in this field.
Yeah, makes sense. Tech is always changing, I'd imagine. So just keeping up with the latest equipment? What kind of learning are we talking?
That's part of it, for sure. But also safety regs, environmental protocols. They even get into new data analysis techniques, project management. The guide actually links to stuff like the International Council on Mining and Metals, keeping up with best practices.
Oh, wow. So they give you the resources, not just like, go learn this. That's helpful.
Exactly. It's like having a guide, Not just telling you what to do, but how to find the info.
And speaking of guidance, what about the interview process? They have a whole section on that. What kind of questions are we talking about here?
Oh, they get specific. It's not just, tell me your strengths. Think more like, you're supervising a team of 5. How do you ensure safety on a drilling site? Or walk me through a time your directional drilling went off course. How'd you troubleshoot? Real world stuff.
So they want to see you can think, apply the knowledge, not just rattle off answers.
And that's another place where RoleCatcher shines. They have these AI-powered tools to help you practice, like get feedback on your video interview skills, your body language, even tailoring your answers to the specific job you want.
Okay, so it's not just about prepping for an interview. It's prepping for this interview. That's got to be a game changer.
Totally. And, thinking about how much you love efficient learning, my pro tip for today: don't get tunnel vision on just the driller role. RoleCatcher, they've got a whole library of these guides, right? Some of them connect to this world in ways you might not expect.
Ooh, intrigue. Okay, give me an example. Which ones are we talking?
Well, they actually mention this in the driller guide. Water network operative and geothermal technician. That's caught my eye.
At first glance, not seeing the connection to drilling, I gotta admit.
But think about it. Water networks, pipes, systems, often underground. Sometimes you need drilling expertise for that. And geothermal technicians, they're tapping into energy deep in the earth. Drilling's essential there too.
Ah, okay. So even if you're drawn to the skills, the tech behind drilling, these other paths, maybe the work's a bit different or it taps into a passion you have. Like with geothermal, there's the whole renewable energy anchor.
Exactly. Broaden your horizons, you might find the perfect fit, a career you hadn't even considered.
It's like you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yes.
RoleCatcher helps you uncover those things.
For sure. Knowledge is power, as they say. They give you the knowledge, the tools, the resources. It's like having a career coach in your back pocket every step of the way.
Couldn't agree more. Well, there you have it, folks. Our deep dive into the world of drillers. We covered a lot, from the unexpected places they work to the high-tech skills they use. It's not just about muscle, right? There's brains involved here, too.
And a lot of heart. These are the folks who build the world around us, often in challenging conditions.
Absolutely. So, listener, if you're looking for a career that's a bit adventurous, technically challenging, physically demanding, but also, ultimately, incredibly rewarding, drilling might just be the perfect fit for you.
And when you're ready to start exploring, check out RoleCatcher. They've got all the resources you need to get started.
Couldn't agree more. Until next time, keep digging into those career goals, and we'll see you on our next deep dive.